from Follow Coin.
And this is Adam Draper from Boost.
We're here and we're going to do a great interview today.
Whoa! What was that? That there was the sound of the auction closing.
What?
We're going to catch up with Adam Draper, founder of Boost VC.
I'm Adam Draper, founder of Boost VC, the greatest Bitcoin accelerator on earth.
Following the win by his dad, Tim Draper, winning the auction for the nearly 30,000 Bitcoin. What Bitcoins? 6 months ago, U.S. Marshals had seized nearly 30,000 Bitcoins from the Silk Road. What's that?
30,000!
Holy smokes. Let's find out more about how Tim Draper, Adam Draper, and Boost VC, as well as Vaurum, are planning to do with these Bitcoins. And maybe how much they spent on that closing bid. Let's find out. How early on after the U.S. Marshals announced that the nearly 30,000 Bitcoins were for sale, did you, your dad, and Avish of Vaurum know or begin planning to place a bid? Were you guys always sure that you'd allocate the sum of the Bitcoins to Vaurum?
Yes.
And why?
So, my dad and Avish and my dad and Avish had been talking about it for about 6 months. So once the Silk Road event, not right when the event happened, but when it was announced that the auction might happen, my dad and Avish started talking about what they could do with this additional, with these Bitcoins. And they didn't want it to just go to be held or locked in a vault somewhere. They wanted it to go out towards liquidity of some nature so that Bitcoin could be spread to far reaches of the world. Where Bitcoin's real value add is, it's more in emerging markets, it's more in places where economies are very inflated, it's more of those types of things. So they really wanted that to happen.
And why Vaurum?
So Varm has built a really, really interesting business where they're trying to bring exchanges to institutions, but also they're bringing these white labeled exchanges into the emerging market world. And so that is the best, again, that's sort of what the best use case is for these Bitcoin, to create liquid markets for Bitcoin in these markets. So whether it be in Turkey, India, Argentina, all those different places have these currency problems, and Bitcoin really changes the way that they can do business.
It's said that Bitcoin can be important to those in emerging markets. Can you tell us why it's such a big deal there?
Well, so currently it's not. It will become a bigger deal. And the problem is that in the United States, although we're very speculative about things and we are early adopters of technology, in the US we're actually already 93% digital as far as our currency is concerned. So most of my money is already digital. I'm using a credit card, I'm not using cash. But in emerging markets where bank account adoption is 10% and cell phone adoption is 90%, Bitcoin can thrive. It just hasn't penetrated those markets yet. And by giving liquidity to these markets, by having a sell side whenever there's a buy side in a marketplace for Bitcoin, that will encourage people to start using Bitcoin more fluidly. And it adds a tremendous amount of value to any place where they don't trust their banks. And so that's where we're trying to bring it. We're trying to bring it to those places.
Is there a big problem with trusting banks?
Lots of countries don't trust their banks, and that's why bank account adoption is so low. I just talked to someone from, lots of different places, but Egypt, they have something like 20% bank account adoption, but 150% cell phone adoption, or something like that. It's some ridiculous number like that. So there's just a difference of world. Like, there are people who are banked still, but then there's this huge population of people who are unbanked, and they need the ability to hold value in a different way than cash. In Kenya, they use the M-Pesa, which is 36% of the GDP there. But there's so many other countries that need, basically what I look at Bitcoin as, Bitcoin is it's an equalizer for financial technology. So it brings everyone up to the speed that United States is as far as being able to transact digitally. And still in Latin America, buying things online, the transaction doesn't happen online. The delivery person comes to the door and then the person pays with a check at the door, and then they give them the good. Like there are a lot of these instances in different countries that no one, and for the internet, like that doesn't make any sense. Like just pay online. Like why doesn't that happen? Like it bothers me. And so Bitcoin can bring the world up to the speed that the U.S. has been at for a while now.
Let's discuss the risk between inflation in emerging markets and the Bitcoin price volatility.
People in Argentina and Venezuela are assuming 25% inflation every year. They assume that their dollar will be 25% less every year, and yes, it probably is a little bit of a volatility gamble. So inflation in these countries you can't do anything about, but at least with Bitcoin you're given the choice. That I think Bitcoin increases freedom and choice and liberty for a lot of countries that don't have it. So I think that's what the exciting part of it is.
It's all about choice. Choose your risk, folks. So about that winning bid, the big question everybody wants to know. Will you tell us how much you and your dad, Tim Draper, placed the winning bid for? Please? Come on, you could tell us.
What I can say is that it was higher than the other bids.
Okay. Translation? It was a huge amount. So when you placed a bid of that amount, did you guys think, okay, we're going to win this? Or was it more like, maybe this will be a good bet?
I don't think anyone, based off of the reaction of everyone, no one knew whether or not they were going to win when they put in the bids. And so we were very, very similar. And so when we got the nod, it was super, super exciting, especially because of all this speculation that was happening in the media for who won it. I think it was surprising to a lot of people, A, that it went to one bidder, and B, that it went to my dad. And I think it was one of the best, it ended up being one of the best use case, one of the best outcomes, just because we never planned on hoarding it. We wanted to put it out into the system. Immediately, we want to make sure that we create uses, we create value, we create things with it. And yes, I think the goal in the end is to eventually have a return on that investment, but it is not based off of it's based off of what we create with it rather than the actual value of the Bitcoin.
So when the announcement of the winners were rolling out, did you think you'd won? Did you think the odds were slim? Was it a shock to you guys? You gotta tell us.
It was calculated, yes, we did think we were gonna win, but yeah.
First thought when you got the nod.
It was a little bit of a what?
That's intense. Were you able to get any sleep?
Yeah, I slept well. No, it was it's just one of these like nervous things. You want to hear the answer as soon as possible, and you didn't really know when it was coming. So it wasn't something that you were really worried about. What you were worried about was pressing the button to enter the bid. And so that was a big moment.
Seriously? What?
What?
And what was it like when the winning bid was getting announced? Was it nerve-wracking?
The biggest panic was when the coins were being transferred from the U.S. Marshal to a wallet. That was the biggest worry, because it was a big transaction. It took a while to clear in the blockchain. We were waiting for a while for it to actually register in the wallet, and we were like, did they send it to the wrong place? You know, the wallet address is right. They're really long strings of letters and numbers, and we had to verify like 30 times, but still it could have gone wrong. Luckily, it ended up being fine, but there was a little bit of panic there. And I could see, Vaurum was panicked. Kidding, Avish.
Adam, what do you, your dad, and Vaurum think about the future of Bitcoin?
I think a lot of people have a lot of different visions for what Bitcoin represents. There's ideological and there's opportunistic, and I feel that what's going to end up happening is, I think it ends up being in 10 years that you're using Bitcoin without knowing you're using Bitcoin. I think it ends up being this protocol, this underlying technology that everyone uses, but you might be transacting in US dollars. You might be transacting in Bitcoin still, but you might be transacting in yen, RMB, and it makes transactions more frictionless border to border. The first use case that will be probably mass adopted, I believe, is going to be remittances, making Bitcoin the global currency very quickly. And maybe it's just a technology used for the remittances, but I think it will be the vehicle by which money is sent all around the world. And I predict that that will happen probably in the next 3 years, that it will be one of the largest ways in which that happens.
Speaking of remittances, are you more of a fan of Ripple or Bitcoin?
Bitcoin. No, I respect what the Ripple team's been doing for a while. But in my mind right now, in the digital currency space, it is Bitcoin and then it is others. And Ripple falls into the other category. But and I believe that Bitcoin needs to be adopted by the masses before others get adopted by the masses, before others really have a huge value add. I also don't feel that most of the digital currencies are different enough from Bitcoin to really make a different impact. I'm still looking, so there might be something out there that's better.
There does definitely need to be standardization. There's a lot of speculation about which of the hundreds of altcoins will become a mainstay. Do you keep up with or have a list of the top 5 altcoins you like at the moment?
I do say that I'm only accepting Bitcoin companies in the accelerator. However, I do keep an eye on, it's the top 5 anyone knows. Dogecoin, Litecoin. I'm interested in Ethereum, but it's still vaporware right now, so I can't really make a statement on it. I also like, what I like about Dogecoin specifically is that there's a passionate community behind it, and that's what captivated me to Bitcoin originally, was that the community around Bitcoin was so strong that they willed it back into existence after the crash of 2011. And so I see a similar thing with a trait with Dogecoin, but it does feel a little, if you add up all the other digital currencies, it's not even close to what Bitcoin is right now. So I still believe Bitcoin is the one. It's like the Neo of digital currencies.
It's pretty great that you guys were adamant that the Bitcoins go back into the ecosystem and market rather than hoarding or controlling them. You could have just kept them all. Ghash is a huge concern right now. What do you think is the best and worst scenario in terms of how Bitcoin is spent, hoarded, and such?
So the biggest problem is, there are 2 different problems. One is the hoarding. Hoarding is a problem where there's no value created by hoarding. I do believe that some people will always hoard because they want to just expect value to be created. And then there's going to be probably 20% other people who just want to create value with their Bitcoin, which is transactions. And that's why it's really important to find the use case that the mass market is going to use Bitcoin for. And I believe remittance will be one of them. I also think merchant adoption will be pretty high just because they save money by using Bitcoin or some similar system. But then there's the issue of Ghash. And you don't want anyone to control the system because that defeats the purpose of what they built with Bitcoin. So I think there has to be a way in which you break it up. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the system's going to be. I'm sure there's people much smarter than I who are working on solving that problem.
You and your dad, Tim Draper, also an investor, are real close. Can you tell us how his and your interests are aligned in terms of Bitcoin?
So he actually institutionally he was first in backing a Bitcoin company of, I think, anyone, first institutional investor in a Bitcoin company. What he says is, I think I got passionate about it first. And so I backed Coinbase, but then I decided that this opportunity wasn't just about the currency, it was about this blockchain technology. And Boost decided to go all in, and we decided to back as many Bitcoin companies as we possibly can to create value. I think now at this point, our values are completely aligned with where we want it to go. We want it to go as far as it can. So we want it to be global. And I think the world is a global economy right now. Bitcoin is what brings it to a global currency level.
I sometimes think that the foreign exchange might actually list Bitcoin at some point. Do you, as an investor, think that might be possible?
I think that's going to happen way sooner than you think. Yeah, I think foreign exchange is going to be just using Bitcoin to do their transactions. People are going to be linking the digital to the real asset system and to make transactions more fluid, so that you don't need that middleman.
Awesome! So can you tell us more about Boost VC? Sounds like a great opportunity for Bitcoin startups. What's the program like? Are you still pretty hands-on after a company graduates and finishes incubation?
Very. So Boost VC is a 12-week program where we provide, we're going to have 25 companies in the next batch. 13 of them, 14 of them are going to be Bitcoin companies. We surround the companies not only with very talented individuals who are working side by side with them, but with great mentors and great speakers, both Bitcoin and non-Bitcoin alike. I think you learn a lot from not only the Bitcoin entrepreneurs, but from other types of businesses entrepreneurs. We bring in great speakers. We've had Mark Andreessen, Brian Armstrong. We've had fantastic people come in to talk. And then the program itself builds towards a demo day. It's 3 months long and builds towards a demo day where hundreds of investors come to see the pitches of these entrepreneurs who have been working day in, day out for 3 months. We help the companies show progress, we help expand their network, and we help provide startup knowledge. And our expertise is in digital currency / Bitcoin. So we're very passionate about the space. We really want it to thrive, and we're betting big on it. So let's keep innovating in that space.
What types of companies and sectors being created right now and innovating in the space do you find exciting?
There are a lot of types of, like inside of Bitcoin, inside of digital currencies, there are a lot of sectors that are broken up in that space. We look at a large spectrum. So we look at everything from payment processors to exchanges, to remittances, to anything that's benefiting the third world countries or inflationary economies. But then there's also this other side that uses the blockchain. And on the blockchain, you're able to dissect based off of analytics. You're able to do real world to digital goods. You're able to do, there are the visualization of the blockchain, which is a very exciting concept. And so I'm encouraging everyone to be working on everything, the entire spectrum, because it's going to be a growing pie that everyone will be able to build value from. And we're hoping to be able to support that. So we're a launching pad for Bitcoin companies.
At the press conference you guys held, your dad refers to his Bitcoin as being the most secure money that he has. What did he mean by that?
He's talking about the process by which, so Vaurum has a very proprietary system for locking down the Bitcoin that they store. And so Vaurum's system is what my dad's referring to. He's referring to their safe of Bitcoin. So it's, yeah.
He also mentioned smart contracts. What are those?
Yeah, so it's smart contracts is on the blockchain side. Basically, eventually you'd be able to program in you would be able, like in the venture capital business, we make a lot of deals every day, and it would be really fascinating if when something happens that prompts something in a deal, everyone's money gets dispersed to all of the people automatically. So that is a very fascinating, it doesn't only work for the venture capital business, but in all types of contracts, there are certain programmatic things that prompt other things, and with the blockchain technology, you can actually create these smart contracts. And so that's what we're going towards, and I think that's all I'm really allowed to say as far as Vaurum in that space. So it would be like what smart contracts are, so.
Do you think Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal might come on board and start accepting Bitcoin?
I think they're just figuring it out right now. I think they're just starting to hear about it. Like on Black Friday, Bitcoin actually ended up being the 4th largest payment processor in the world, which means that it was right up there with Discover, which is a very exciting place for Bitcoin to be. It hasn't been that high since, but on that day it was, which shows that there is a very valuable power there. I think they need to either adopt the technology or they will be innovated away.
Thanks for your time, Adam.
I'm Adam Draper, founder of Boost VC. Boost VC's new session is starting this month. We have 14 Bitcoin companies in this session.
Come on, folks, let's innovate the future of money.
Bye, guys.